I'm now joined by a family member whose someone whose family will get closure and peace tomorrow, and that is Mancoba Qubeka, Edwin Makoti's son. Makoti was a founder member of the Pan-Africanist Congress, went to exile in the early 1960s and served in PAC leadership positions while in exile based in Botswana, Tanzania, and Zimbabwe. He died in Zimbabwe on the 21st of April, 1989. Thank you very much, Mancoba Qubeka, for joining us this afternoon. Now, it may have taken so many years for this to happen, but I'm sure you're happy that finally it's happening.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are very much excited. You know, with first, I think I would love to thank the South African government, you know, and other stakeholders, you know, who made this possible. Yeah, that is on last Friday, we did go to Zimbabwe. You know, we went to do some rituals, you know, at the cemetery there in Harare, you know, and ultimately we were with our father. You know, and I must mention also, you know, our leader who died in 1985, John Nyati Pokela. We went to both, you know, graves. You know, yeah, and basically, I must say, you know, it was a fulfilling moment. Thank you.
What does it mean for you and for your family?
For us, it means a great deal. Firstly, for myself, you know, I did meet Ndate, you know, in exile because I was a member of the Pan-Africanists on my own right. And then, but most of the family, you know, they have had a very traumatic moments, you know, since 1962. You know, when from time to time the special branch, you know, would at their own accord, you know, just enter the house at any time, sometimes break windows, doors, you know, and stuff like that. The following day, the children must have to go to school, you know, but they will arrive there at 4, at 3 o'clock. It was a very traumatic situation, such that also, you know, the surrounding community, it became very difficult, you know, to associate, you know, either as parents or as children, you know, with the Makoti family. So basically, there was a lot of hardships, you know, in terms of relationships with community and also with who they are.
Would the security branch ever tell the family what it was that they were looking for or what they wanted you to do at the time?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I was saying, at the time when they would come and harass and intimidate the family, did they ever tell you what they were looking for or what it was that they wanted you to do?
You know, the family got used, you know, to receiving them, you know, albeit, you know, with a great fear, you know. They would say they are looking for a father, hasn't he? They heard he was here, you know, and then the next thing they will open drawers. And so the mother became so brave, you know, that sometimes we think you would find Makoti in that drawer, you know, because they have really taken toll, you know, of the harassment, you know, and to the extent that if it happens, you know, that one of the children, you know, is not at home, you know, 3-4 days, she will be so much afraid that am I gonna lose, you know, another child as my husband, you know? So basically, even sometimes, you know, find it difficult to contend, you know, with comrades who would from time to time come to give them solace, you know? So it was very hard for them. You know, they happened once, you know, in the early 70s, went to Lesotho to meet Ndate there, you know, and it was such also another traumatic situation that they would not be coming back with him.
I'm asking this, of course, because there's a lot we take for granted, but also we never or rarely ever speak about this past or those experiences, especially young South Africans who may not even have heard of such experiences. Was that what led to you joining the Pan-Africanist Congress and deciding to becoming his comrade?
Well, of course, the situation on the ground, we were harassed, when you go to look for work, there's, like, for instance, we stayed in Johannesburg, there was a discrimination, and also when you go to places like the PAS office where they will, when you get a job, they will humiliate you, take your trousers out, they want to see, your private parts, and besides, from time to time, our people were really harassed, politically, economically, socially degraded, and in fact, culturally degraded, and the past laws and such, So with myself, I was expelled at work, in 1973, when basically I once told a white man, seeing people who were working, cleaning windows up. So I told him that, when we become free one day, you are going to be doing that job. So I was expelled, and then I immediately joined the underground.
Now, how much time were you able to spend with him?
A very, very, very short time. Very, very short time. I will say I saw him only twice. Because what happened, I didn't grow within the family of the Makotis. I grew as Qubeka, not knowing that he was my father. So when I was in Gaborone, from time to time at the PAC, headquarters, from time to time, old people who would come from Dar es Salaam visiting, they would ask, aren't you Makoti's son? You look like Makoti's son, So several older people, who had the eye, they could see me because I didn't know that he was my father. And basically, politically, because of his ideological prowess, he was actually influencing me, so much that I also became a political commissar, So I was expelled by the government in Botswana in 1986, after a 12-day hunger strike, at the Gaborone prison. I was then taken straight from prison. They asked the PAC to take me out of Botswana, so I went to Dar es Salaam, and upon arriving in Dar es Salaam, 2 days I was there, because at the time we were not allowed, the PC was not allowed to bring people who are fighters, because after the death of David Sibeko, who happened, to accidentally, got killed, in a scuffle where the soldiers wanted the leaders to come and meet them at the camp. And after that, because he was very close to the foreign minister of Tanzania, he became so angry that they banned PC from bringing fighters. So I had to go there not as a fighter, but I had to go and study journalism. So when I arrived there, my sister, who was also in Dar es Salaam, who also didn't know, that I was Makoti's son. I was going to change, foreign currencies. So she saw me and said, "Hey, Mancoba, come in. I want to introduce you to my father." So I went to him. They were sitting at a small motel next to the PEC office. So I greeted him. I said, "Who are you, Mancoba Qubeka?" Then he asked, "Are you Beatrice's son?" I said, "Yes." Then he said, "Indo's man Wednesday." This is how I came to know that he was my father.
Of course, I mean, we will be spending some time with you tomorrow as we cover that welcoming ceremony. But just as a parting shot, from those who knew and worked with your father well, but also those who spent some time with him in the earlier days, which would include your own mother, what kind of a person have they said he was?
Basically, he had a very, administrative and ideological prowess, to this, to the fact that he was at most the one who basically organized, PAC policies, and positional papers, when they go to the United Nations, to the OAU, and also to our supporters. He was basically the one, and before Nyati Pokela was this thing kidnapped in 1967, by the racist regime, sometimes he would be the one who works with him, because the other thing, they were homeboys, they all came together from Herschel, and came to Joburg, and immediately Nyati Pokela joined Sobukwe in standard and becoming teachers. So my father went to work at Baragwanath Hospital as a clerk, and then that is where he actually met my mother, and he also, who he didn't marry, and also met, my younger brother David's mother, And but basically, he was a very, very quiet man. This is how they describe him, a very quiet man. And what I know in the camps, most of the fighters, especially those who came after June 16, they used to call him Ndate. Ndate is a special name for him, because the way they loved him. Sometimes they would call him Carlos the Jackal, because sometimes he would disappear, when they found that there is some misunderstandings, which could lead, to dangerous situations, But he would be back. That's why they gave him that name, Carlos the Jackal, Yeah. So he was a center of administrative and ideological strength, and the one, for instance, that he wrote a paper, on settler, a positional paper on the South African struggle, which was called the paper was which became OAU position. It's on settler colonialism. It was adopted by the OAU. He also served, at UNESCO from time to time. He wrote a paper, National and Colonial Question, which also was adopted, by that organization.
Yes.
So most conferences were attended by him. Yes.
Mancoba Qubeka, let me thank you very much for giving us your time to talk about your father. We really, really appreciate it. He's the firstborn of Edwin Makoti, a founder member of the PAC, who, of course, died while in exile in Zimbabwe. We'll bring you more of these stories throughout the afternoon, but also tomorrow, as we, of course, bring you the proceedings from that welcoming ceremony. 49 former liberation figures who passed away in exile in Zimbabwe and Zambia their remains are being brought back, and there will be a ceremony tomorrow to welcome them. But then on Friday, there will be a ceremony that will be addressed by President Cyril Ramaphosa, after which, or whereafter, all these heroes will be taken to their respective provinces, where they will be buried next to their loved ones.